An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all.
Next speaker is Vali, and she is with the Green Party in San Francisco.
Hi everybody, my name is Valielza O'Keefe, and I am a county council member of the San Francisco Green Party. I actually want to kind of give a different perspective. I think we've been hearing from a lot of people that are part of, trade unions and, healthcare workers are part of the Teamsters. Thank you so much for everything that you've contributed to this rally. But I am a member of Gen Z. I am 26 years old, and like many people in my generation in our 20s, early 30s, we've never really had the opportunity to join unions. The labor movement, as we all know, is significantly weakened, and the jobs that are available have intentionally been depoliticized. Unions have been kicked out. Unions have been weakened through a variety of legal maneuvers. And unfortunately, a lot of people in my age range have never had the opportunity to do so. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and both my parents were members of the Culinary Workers United. But even though we were technically a union household, they were actually very anti-union. And I think this reflects the attitude of a lot of people in the American public, which is, they're part of a union, they complain about the dues, they complain about their leadership, but they don't tend to get involved, they don't tend to run for leadership. And what I think a lot of people don't appreciate is that unions, like any other institution, like our own governments at the local, state, and federal levels, they require care, they require maintenance, they require active participation and involvement. And so, my parents always had these criticisms about the union, the fact that they had to pay these dues, but they claim that the union never did anything for them. And I think, unfortunately, that kind of reflects what the American public thinks now about unions, that they're just there to steal your dues and to add a layer of complication between you and the employer and to restrict, the potential for raises, the potential for promotions, not understanding everything that unions have done to protect the working class, the fact that we wouldn't have things like a weekend or an 8-hour workday or child labor laws or minimum wage if it wasn't for everything that unions did, especially in the early 20th century. And from my perspective, so I actually work in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, and that has been an industry that has been really, really harmed by everything that's been going on under this administration, specifically the tariffs. And if you're not aware, pharmaceuticals and biotechnology is a very global industry. We rely on manufacturing from China, we rely on research collaboration and manufacturing in Europe. So the second that these tariffs are introduced, it introduced volatility to an industry that already was a really, really volatile industry. If you don't know, drug development in this country is essentially a gambling game for venture capitalists. And being a scientist is actually not the stable career that it used to be in the 50s and the 60s. Now, if you're a scientist, you can expect to get laid off every couple of years. Scientists don't have unions. They have been depoliticized to the point where we're told not to try to start unions, and they're not interested in joining unions in their workplace. And despite the fact that I, as a 20-something, did what I was supposed to, going to college, getting a degree in science, or STEM, which is so valued in this country because of the military-industrial complex, and going into a career to get a stable lifestyle, that's been denied to me. I've only been in the industry 3 years after graduating with a degree in material science and engineering, and I've been laid off twice. I have been unemployed for 8 months now, and I've been desperately looking for my next role in the industry with the education and experience that I have. And the unfortunate reality is I know it isn't because there's something wrong with me as an individual. What it reflects is it reflects the state of the system, it reflects the state of our economy, which has been completely given to venture capitalists that just want to gamble and enrich themselves and leave the working class behind. And it's honestly kind of a miracle coming from such an anti-union background and kind of, drinking a lot of the propaganda, or the Kool-Aid, I should say, that I've kind of made it to this point where I'm a socialist and now I'm a member of the San Francisco Green Party. But I think what it shows is that so many people in my age group, I was 17 years old when Trump was elected. I experienced a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. I experienced the largest protest movement in the United States with Black Lives Matter. And I think it just shows that people in my age group are extremely radicalized right now, and we've been forced to contend with a system that is increasingly broken, increasingly corrupt, and it really leaves no other option to either be radicalized, you're either radicalized to the left or to the right. And I think fortunately what I've been seeing is that more and more people in my age group have been radicalized to the left, being in groups like General Strike US, joining groups like DSA and PSL. Young people were a key part of Mamdani's victory in New York City. But what I'll say as a member of the Green Party is that we can't rely on the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, to deliver us from this mess. You know, a lot of people want to point to Trump as being this unique aberration, and because he's uniquely a bad guy, uniquely a con man, that if we just get him out, then we're going to solve all of our problems. But I think, as we all know, these problems are deep-rooted. Trump is a representation of the corruption that both parties have engaged in for a very, very long time. And we need to build independent politics. We need a workers' party. I really think the Green Party can be that party. We have ballot lines in almost all 50 states. But either way, I am supportive of anyone that wants to run outside of the Democratic and Republican parties. And I think we need to not only empower people to start unions in their workplaces and to take up union leadership, for example, like supporting someone like Richard Hooker and John Palmer and the Teamsters with the Fearless Slate, but we also need to be supporting people like Butch Ware for governor of California, who's running with the Green Party, because only independent politics are going to get us out of this mess. We can't continue to invest in parties like the Democrats and the Republicans that have been bought out by corporations and billionaires for decades now and have created the unique situation that we're in. So I just want to say thank you so much to Steve Zeltzer and United Front Committee for Labor Party for putting this on. And I really, really hope that with our continued participation that we can start to improve things for workers.
Stop the tariff, stop killing workers.
Workers in, billionaires out.
Workers in, billionaires out.